Imagine a country so worried about its own success that it asks voters to make population growth illegal. This chart maps Switzerland's current population of 9.1 million. The ballot proposal enforces a hard constitutional limit of 10 million residents before 2050. If the population hits 9.5 million, the government must start slamming doors, cutting asylum approvals, limiting family reunification, and restricting residency permits. This law treats human geography like a mechanical thermostat, locking strict numerical mandates directly into the country's founding documents. If those domestic restrictions fail to stop the curve from approaching that 10 million mark, Bern is legally required to begin terminating international treaties. There is exactly one agreement everyone has their eye on: the free movement of persons with the European Union, Switzerland's largest trading partner. This diagram illustrates Swiss access to the European single market, supported by over 120 bilateral accords. Welded into the center is the free movement of people. A specific guillotine clause means pulling this single pillar out automatically nullifies the entire architecture of economic cooperation. The real question on the ballot is whether the Swiss are willing to detonate their economic relationship to control their population size. To understand why this is even on the table, we have to look at the velocity of the last 2 decades. Since opening its labor market to the EU in 2002, the population exploded from 7.3 million to 9.1 million. That is 1.7 million extra people added to a small geography where buildable land is exceptionally scarce. When your highways are squeezed between mountains and steep valleys, population growth becomes visible everywhere. The physical strain is everywhere. Trains moving through Zurich at rush hour feel like Tokyo. The immense density required to house new workers has created a severe housing crisis, driving rents in cities like Geneva and Zug to levels that make even well-paid locals wince. The right-wing Swiss People's Party built its campaign on this anxiety. They named it the Sustainability Initiative, framing border control as environmental protection to attract voters who are simply tired of packed trains and concrete spreading across alpine meadows. For many, national GDP growth is meaningless if they can no longer afford an apartment or find space on their morning commute. This initiative faces an unprecedented alliance. Multinational banks and pharmaceutical giants are marching with trade unions and the Socialist Party to fight the cap. They are united by a math problem. Switzerland does not produce enough of its own workers. Hospitals and care homes depend on recruiting staff from across the border. The hospitality and machinery sectors would stall without a steady flow of European labor. There is also the demographic reality. Switzerland is aging. Its state pension system stays solvent specifically because young foreign workers move in and pay taxes. Choking off that workforce risks bankrupting the system that supports the country's retirees. Then there is the diplomatic reality with Brussels. Having watched the chaos of Brexit, the European Union has no appetite to let another country walk away from free movement while keeping its market access. You cannot choke off the labor supply without bankrupting the very system that created the country's prosperity. For 30 years, the Western economic consensus treated immigration as an unambiguous good. More workers meant more total growth and more taxpayers. This chart highlights a distinction voters are figuring out faster than their governments. A rising line for total economic growth looks great on paper, but if the line for GDP per person stays flat or dips, the average citizen isn't actually getting any richer. This demographic friction is spreading. Canada recently slashed its permanent resident targets after spiking housing costs and strained social services turned public opinion against growth. Britain is tightening its visa rules, and the Netherlands saw a government collapse over migration policy. When rents explode, voters look for explanations. Infrastructure strain and housing costs have become the universal pressure points, dismantling the pro-migration consensus across the West. Switzerland is the first country to put this unresolvable tension directly onto a ballot in its purest form. Prosperity attracts people, and those people strain the things that made the place prosperous. There is no policy lever that delivers high prosperity without the people. The choice is between 2 futures: a stable, exclusive haven behind high walls, or an open, crowded, ever-denser hub. Switzerland is making its choice out loud. The rest of the rich world is next.